It's going to be something.
Mentira fue la tarde tu pasado. Mentira fue la tarde tu pasado.
What is going on, everybody? It's In the Money DFS podcast, hosted, as always. My name is Justin, and I'm joined by Coach Dan, a.k.a. just Dan. Whatever you want to call him, Coach Dan. Dan. He wins the money, though. What's going on, Dan?
We're hot, man. It's 3 out of 4 weeks in a row. The GPPs have been kind, hitting the tournament winnings there. Still a little down, though, man. As you know, it was a $2,000 hit last week, but it could have been $13,000 if James White didn't get one catch for 4 yards at the end of the game. That was a little bit painful, but other than that, man, Lakers are going for a championship. My Cowboys are going for the toilet bowl. Overall, life's good, pal. Ready to talk some GPPs and help our listeners out tonight.
Yeah, as am I. Except for I was not that close to winning that much money, but I was feeling for you, and it's so stupid how you have to have actually the perfect lineup, especially on these showdowns. Like I feel like on Sunday slate you can have a little miss here or there if you make up for it somewhere else, but on the single game showdowns, you need the actual perfect lineup to make them to win the grand prize. And I feel so bad for you because that was stupid, but that's just, I guess, the way the cookie crumbles, Dan.
It was stressful, man, to go from, watching my numbers. Once Honey Badger had that interception and I was up $11,666 in DraftKings, and then one little James White catch put me to $333. I had an identical lineup with 2 other teams, and then when James White had that catch, 8 teams with an identical lineup hopped up in front of us. So it's pretty wild.
It's crazy. Just easily swinging the tides. We got another single game slate showdown tonight. The Bears versus the Buccaneers, Tampa Bay, all the above. Before we get into that, if you guys are not following us on Twitter, my Twitter is at Justin_FFB. Dan's Twitter is at FFCoachDan, and the podcast Twitter is at InTheMoneyDFS_. You guys listening to the podcast, first time listening, subscribe if you're new, because like Dan says, we've been hitting the green. We're in the green. We're in the money. Oh, this is just ka-ching. We're just ka-ching. That's all we're doing over here. But tonight's game for the live stream, viewers only. Remember, if you guys listen to this on podcast form, you go live every Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And that's when we do our single game slates. We give you guys the tips to hopefully make some money on these single game slates. Dan's coming off a hot single game slate on Monday night. So, Dan, what you got for us on this Thursday night game?
Yeah, ready to grind again, man. And, for our listeners, Justin, it's just a matter of you got to keep grinding. I was kind of bummed because Sunday my picks weren't as hot as the Sunday before. Some things hit, some things didn't. And it's like, do I play again on Monday night? And thank God I did, because, I hit a FanDuel contest and we had that big sweat in DraftKings. So for our listeners, whether the game's good, bad, it's just trying to find an edge, and you never know when you're going to hit. It only takes that one hit to pay for the whole season. So as we look at tonight's game, which, hopefully is a fun one there between the Bears and the Bucs. The Bucs have definitely been fun to watch. Chris Godwin's out, so we don't put him in your lineups there. Mike Evans, they say, is good to go, along with Scotty Miller. I know they were both questionable going into the game, and I just think the Bucs are a much better football team than the Chicago Bears. And even though they're on the road, it is in Chicago. I am not a Nick Foles believer, so I'm going to have
Whoa. Tell the people why
tonight.
You're not a Nick Foles believer, Dan. Tell the people why, deep down, what is the reason for this Nick Foles hatred?
It's deep, man. It's deep. It's DFS and Dynasty there with Mr. Nick Foles.
He was your guy last year.
I was all over Nick Foles a year ago thinking, perfect setup in Jacksonville. I don't know what I was thinking. Week 1, he came out blazing, hit Shark on that touchdown, hurts his shoulder. I picked like a perfect lineup that week other than Nick Foles. Won a few $100, would have won big if Foles probably stays in that game. And then I don't know, I played him again later in the season when he came back and he burnt me. So anyway, you're bringing back old wounds. But for tonight, I I'm not a believer in the Bears. I know Foles, when he came in relief against Atlanta, he was hot, and people are like, all right, maybe the Bears are okay. They're undefeated, but they've played cupcakes. They've played above their head. They play a tough Tampa Bay defense. I'm not big on A-Rob tonight, as he's going to be shadowed by Carlton Davis, who's been doing a really good job against big receivers this year. So I'm loving Scotty Miller, man. He's been hot, and Mike Evans not 100%. Godwin out, OJ Howard out. Who's Brady going to throw to? He loves those Edelman types. So I love Scotty Miller, and I do love Gronk in a primetime game here. Big time players come to play in big time games, right?
You saw some more targets last week, Dan. He saw the targets; they're coming, and now everyone's not playing. So it has to be Gronk week, Dan.
The only little caveat there where I think people could get mad tonight, and I haven't had enough courage to go there, is Cameron Brate. No one's talking about him. He's been quiet, but now when OJ Howard's gone, we all know Cameron Brate's sneaky in the red zone. Everyone's going to be thinking Gronk tonight in the red zone, or Mike Evans, and Cameron Brate might find himself wide open. There's a lot of flexibility in this lineup. You can really play anybody you want tonight. So unless you're, mass multi-entering 150 lineups, I haven't quite went down that road yet. So right now I'm handcrafting my lineups, and I don't know if I could go down the Cameron Brate road, but don't discount him tonight. And I think if you're playing back in the Chicago Bears, A-Rob's always going to score, but to load up the most bucks, I'm liking Jimmy Graham at 6,800. Like I said, I think everyone will be on A-Rob, and I think he's got a tough matchup. So I just don't think tonight's the A-Rob night. I think Jimmy Graham would be the next guy in line to get those touches.
Dan. It's always A-Rob night. I don't know what you're saying over here. You're saying, no, tonight. It's always A-Rob night. A-Rob's always in play, and I like him in the captain spot. $15,900 for the captain spot. But per usual, I always like doing my deep shots just for the single game slates because, like I said, you need a perfect lineup. So if something does break right and you have this arbitrary, random contrarian lineup, you're going to be really close to being in the money. And so that guy for me tonight, you scroll down, it's Cairo Santos. No, it's actually Darnell Mooney in the captain spot because Darnell Mooney is serving as the number 2 option for the passing game for the Bears, unless they get in the red zone. Like you said, your man Jimmy Graham gets those targets in the red zone. 6,900 for a captain spot is very cheap and allows you to pay up for all these other plays elsewhere, and you can kind of have a stacked lineup. But it's that one guy who you need to have in your lineup because, as you saw Monday night, you need the perfect lineup. So I like the Brate play because if Tampa Bay does get in the red zone a lot, which they probably will because their offense isn't too bad, but they are missing a lot of guys. Brate is in play. I would not have Brate in the captain spot though. But I do like Darnell Mooney in the captain spot. He's been looking good. He's been out running more routes than Anthony Miller, getting more targets than Anthony Miller. In his first game with Nick Foles last week, he actually saw the second most targets on the team behind A-Rob, who Nick Foles has hard eyes for, as any quarterback who plays with A-Rob should have, is hard eyes for this guy because he's just a very good wide receiver and one of my favorites in the NFL. You got to put some respect on this man's name, Dan.
I'm trying to figure out how this game's going to play out, Justin. Like, you're going to have cash left over in your lineup tonight. I think no matter how you cut it, you're trying to be contrarian. We're talking about the Cameron Brates, the Darnell Mooneys, as you mentioned, and he's fast. He definitely's caught my attention. And, dynasty redraft leagues, if you could pick up Mooney, he's especially in dynasty, he's got sneaky upside. But I like the Bucs defense a lot. I don't see this being a high scoring teams moving the ball down the field. You play in Chicago in that cold weather. I know it's not that cold yet, but I just think defensive football in Chicago, Bucs have an underrated defense. Brady will control the clock. The Bears will try to control the clock. I'm liking that Bucs D.
I believe the game total is also fairly low. I got triple check on that because I don't love Thursday night sites because it's Thursday night football. Bears team implied total is 20.5. The overall implied total for the game is 44.5, which quickly sifting through every single game, it is the lowest, tied with Pittsburgh game on the slate this week. So it's a very low game. It shouldn't be high scoring. So I do like that call with the defense, Dan.
Defense, run game. All right, get me going here, Justin. I'm putting some last man lineup in,
And the most contrarian play you can probably do out of all of them, and I'm not going to do it, but like you said, if you're a guy who's going to enter multiple lineups in, and if you want to do this to yourself, which I would not advise, but hey, usually when I advise something, it doesn't really go that great. So maybe this is the reverse psychology thing you need me to say. Dave Montgomery. I'm not touching him against this Buccaneers run defense, but hey, watch him have a career game tonight, Dan. Then we know how to do the process from now on. Just do whatever I say and just do the opposite. That's what you need to do.
That's a strategy. That's hey, we're giving different game theories. We're not telling the listeners who to pick. We're trying to point them in the right direction to make the best educated decision.
Yeah. But I think the slate, this game is pretty simple. And Fournette's active, and I know you were talking about it before that people could pivot on him, but you're going to stay off him and probably get an edge up by possibly Ronald Jones being a contrarian play. But lastly, before we go into week 5, after the week 4 review, of course, what's your thoughts on Keyshawn Vaughn in a little deeper play? Because I know Dynasty Theory has some people on that show that absolutely adored Keyshawn Vaughn, and then they're kind of nervous. But last week looked pretty good.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for Mitch and John here, man, as they're getting a little, retribution there after a long road. He had, he didn't hit that hype. The Buccaneers invested a lot in him, and he didn't even sniff the field for a while. But then the Bucs had some injuries, and last week he got the flash and was a big player in the passing game. Because that's the one thing Rojo's not. He's not a pass catching back. Now the only thing is, how does Leonard Fournette get utilized tonight? Is it just a passing role? Is it an emergency role? He hasn't practiced at all, which made me think, I'm going to stay on Rojo, as maybe Leonard Fournette will scare some people away from Rojo. And, if I'm in DraftKings, I need that one filler guy in the lineup. Keyshawn Vaughn getting some catches out of the backfield. Maybe he breaks one. He's got some athletic ability. Could be a sneaky pick.
Yeah, sneaky pick is the key. And now we're going to reel back in. There's a nice slate. We're back for the podcast listeners. Week 4 just happened. Dan, what went wrong? What went right? I think a couple of things went right. I'm gonna start out. My cash game, I guess, advice. It's not bad if you paid lower for Ryan Fitzpatrick. You got saved by his fourth quarter performance by him putting up 300+ yards, and then paying up for all the running backs that did pretty well. You could have cashed, but I didn't do that great in cash last week. But once again, somehow I don't understand, Dan. I've been doing good in GPP back-to-back weeks. That's saving me from my cash losses. So my GPP lineup, I was actually, before the 4 o'clock games, I was in 32nd place out of 20,000 in it was the pylon, the $12 entry fee with 3 entries. I was somehow in the top 50, and then I finished top 400, so that's pretty good. I'll take that. I mean, I'm not a GPP guy, Dan, but I did something.
I'm rubbing off on you, man. You're getting a little GPP vibe there, and you're cashing, so that's all good. Yeah, that's
yeah. What? Yeah, you tell people what you did correctly. Of course, the Cowboys got to get mentioned, so go ahead.
They do it, and you know what? I don't know if that's what I did right or what I've been doing wrong for the last few weeks. Just because I've been listening to Al Smizzle, and this weekend he said that if you played the Cowboys and if you did mass multi-entry the Cowboys every week, you would have won the Millie Maker. Now, it's my lifelong dream to win that Millie Maker. And I'm a crazy over-the-top nutty Dallas Cowboy fan.
You are?
And I played them. I might have given a couple hints there. And I've played them, and I've played different stacks every week, but trying not to be a homer, not be biased in my GPP picks. I've been maybe too conservative. So I'm a little salty there. They did
reverse psychology. You're the reason why the Cowboys have been such fancy producers, because you're staying off them.
It could be. No, they have won me money every week, but I haven't won the Millie Maker, and I probably should have went even more combinations of Cowboy stacks because their offense has been lights out, and that continued a little bit this week. I won some money there on the boys, but all in all, I'm a little mad at myself because I was too high on Deshaun Watson last week, and it just never materialized. I thought it was the perfect storm at home versus the Vikings, and he did have chances, but, I had the Brandon Cook stack in there. Cooks had 0 catches. So that was my big bust of the week, and I was really salty about that. So I should have went more Cowboy stacks. Instead, I played, so many Cowboys, and I went heavier on the Texans. So that was kind of my downfall. Kenyon Drake, never again, thinking he could break out at 6,000. And I'm also, I love my Mike Davis pick. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mad I went off Joe Mixon. I was high on Joe Mixon on our show, but I was a little leery of that, last minute injury report. And I took him out of a couple lineups because of that injury report. And boy, am I kicking myself for doing that. So I could have been in more money if I stood on my original hot take of Joe Mixon and I went off. And your Dolphins, man, what's up with your Dolphins, Justin? Where is Preston Williams this season?
All right, well, I said this all off season. people who listen to my other podcasts that do Father Son of Fantasy Football, shameless plug. I don't care. I said I'm not buying into Preston Williams. I like Preston Williams as a player. I think he's great, but he had a midseason ACL tear, and usually those things take a while to recover from fully. And I even pointed out, I was on Devontae Parker this offseason. I was hired a consensus on Devontae Parker. I think he's a great player. And the people were like, oh, but when Preston Williams is healthy, Devontae Parker didn't really do much. It had to happen. Like Devontae Parker's ascension last season happened when Preston Williams was gone. Well, you got to look at the other external factors too. The Dolphins' offense as a whole averaged 75 plus more passing yards a game when targeting Devontae Parker more heavily. So they're a better offense when they give Parker the ball more. And it's Devontae Parker's season always. But Preston Williams, a good buy low candidate in dynasty leagues. That's the takeaway right there. But I would never play them in DraftKings, Dan. Never. But there's also a big miss you had last week, too. And it wouldn't be right for me to not touch on this before we go into week 5. There was a game. It was the Cowboys versus the Browns. And I was saying it's Odell week. And you were like, no, Justin. It's the Jarvis Landry week. So, Dan, what happened? What happened there?
This was the first week where it backfired on me. You know, I was hot with Calvin Ridley instead of Julio versus Dallas. I was Tyler Lockett versus Metcalf versus Dallas. And those 2 weeks hit me some good cash. And then this week, I went to the well just one too many times, and I said Landry over OBJ. And to my point of not taking enough Dallas stacks, I should have listened to you, Justin, and took a little more OBJ in there. You know, now given my boy Jarvis Landry threw him one of those touchdowns, but then he hit that lucky reverse for a touchdown because Dallas doesn't play defense. So that was a nice little bonus touchdown because he only had 5 catches, but boy, did he make the most of his opportunities on that day for sure.
I'm hoping that they know that they have to get the ball in their best players' hands. It's not hard, Dan. It shouldn't be that hard. Football doesn't have to be hard. Just bubble screen at Odell every play and watch him work. I mean, honestly, the dude's good at football. But this week, I may be staying on Odell. I may not. But quarterback plays, Dan. I have a couple I love. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
One last mention last week. My tight end streak continued too. I've been pretty hot on tight ends, picking Jimmy Graham the week before we went off. He didn't blow up last week, but at bare bones punt play, I said Ian Thomas, and Ian Thomas finally hit the end zone, had a few catches, so he's kind of made himself relevant again there. So I was happy.
Mo Alley Cox is always relevant as well, but Ian Thomas is a great call. I also like him this week. But quarterbacks this week, Dan. It's looking. I mean, right now the Buffalo-Tennessee game, no one knows what's happening on Sunday, so I'm staying away from that. I think I heard rumors that's going to be on Tuesday, and then their Thursday game next week is going to get moved to Sunday or something like that. So I am. You're not going to be playing obviously Josh Allen or anyone this week in the Sunday slate because COVID and the Titans not wearing their masks. Could not be me, Dan. I'm wearing my mask. I'm required to wear a mask. I'm going to wear a mask, but I'm going back to the well, and by the well, I mean the well from the off season. I haven't really been on this guy much this season, but the first quarterback I absolutely love this week. Any guesses to who it is, Dan? I got a guy. It's a guy, and you
got a guy. Are you going back to Kyler Murray? Are you going back to Kyler?
Lower.
Lower than Kyler Murray. Back to Matty Ice.
No, lower.
Danny Dimes. Against my Cowboys?
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody can play defense?
No, it's Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater.
He was my next guess there. He's on the list.
$5,900 on DraftKings. He's in the shootout game against the Atlanta Falcons, who, like your Cowboys, Dan, they cannot play defense, and it has a 54-point over-under that is top 4 highest on the slate. A lot of high over-unders this week, which is pretty good to see, so you can target some of these games. But the Panthers have the 10th highest team implied total this week. And, I mean, it's not the stack portion, but you already know who I'm stacking them with. I'm going back to the well, and I'm going to probably do a triple stack in this game. But I do like Teddy Bridgewater in a positive matchup where he has to throw the ball a lot against Atlanta. And he also looked good this week. And then my other quarterback play I like a lot. I'm going back to the well from last week where my GPP play was Justin Herbert. I'm going to Justin Herbert again. I think Justin Herbert it looks great. For a rookie quarterback, he looks very good. He's in a situation that definitely helps his abilities show. So Justin Herbert against the New Orleans Saints.
They got a good defense, pal.
Actually, am I stupid? I think it's a night game. I think I'm stupid, but it's okay. I mean, hey, Monday night slate. I'm going Justin Herbert in the captain spot. They got a good defense, but I'm not really too concerned about it. I mean, it's a 51-point over under. They are 7.5-point underdogs, so they're gonna have to be throwing the ball from behind. And that means Justin Herbert. But I also like Kirk Cousins a lot this week. I mean, Russell Wilson's always in play. Is that also the Monday night game? Am I always just here just missing? It is in there. See, I always single game
Sunday night. Sunday night.
Yeah. Sunday
Yeah, so
night, Monday night.
you're gonna have Minnesota at Seattle Sunday night, and then you mentioned Chargers Saints Monday night, and then Denver New England's gonna get moved to that Monday
all
night.
these
So
Monday
make
nights.
sure everyone's aware of the lineup.
So annoying. All this COVID regulations and stuff. Dan, are you playing your boy Dak Prescott this week? I was gonna save him for you, but that's just like the number one option, just because Dak Prescott is always garbage time machine.
I'm always playing Dak Prescott, my friend, for the rest of this season. And no, I do not expect him to throw for 450, 500 yards every week, but he could throw for 350, and I'll be okay with that, Justin, along with the touchdowns and some rushing yards that he's going to get. So we are not staying away from Dak Prescott at all. I am getting a little leery as this ship keeps sinking. Tyron Smith is potentially out for the season now, their left tackle. He's got a neck injury, so that it could be a huge blow to the Cowboys. I mean, they're just getting thinner as we go. That worries me about Zeke a little bit too. Again, I think they're still going to produce, they'll improvise, but like these big 500-yard performances get a little harder when we lose those key offensive linemen, especially when the defensive matchups get tough. But against the Giants, I think they could still find a way to hopefully win, although my confidence wanes every week. But yeah, I love Dak this week, 7,400. I think he's a great play. That'll be one of the stacks I'm trying to create. I love where you're at with Teddy Bridgewater, him and Matty Ice. I think that's just a great playback game, no matter which way you want to cut it. Both of those guys could go off, which helps both of their performances. I think, I always like bounce back guys. I was high on Deshaun Watson, but the Bill O'Brien factor was there, and maybe I didn't take into account, and the weight of the world maybe off him, that Bob is no longer running this organization, and they're back. I can see Deshaun Watson bouncing back after letting me down last week. He's going to feel a little bad. He's going to say, Dan, I'm going to cash for you and have a big game. I think you can't get away from Lamar anytime he's on the slate at 7,900. I'm surprised you didn't mention Kyler Murray at 7,200 versus the JETS football Jets, who are just terrible. I think that could be a good get right game for Kyler Murray. They're my main picks at quarterback, Justin. I think Danny Jones would be my, GPP special maybe, because anybody versus Dallas scores, and then play back the Cowboys, and then Cam Newton would be my one more, man, as long as he plays. I think everyone's going to forget about him. He's COVID. He's still kind of a long shot to play, but he is not out. They still say it's possible, and now they move that game another day. That buys him one more day to possibly get right. This could be the league helping the New England Patriots out like they always do, and you just might see Cam. And if he does play, he is going to be mad, man, and I can see him going off for some Bronco defense on Monday night. So if you're playing that Thursday to Monday night slate, or Monday night slate's a good, fun one to play, or a single game slate, those running quarterbacks like Cam, it could be a good time to take them.
Yeah.
Who's that? One more? You have one more?
Yeah. Jared Goff, 6,500. It's not pretty. I'm not a big Jared Goff guy, but they have the 8th highest team implied total with 27 points. And it's against Washington defense, who I don't know if Chase Young's playing this week. So I believe that Jared Goff's going to funnel the ball to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And with that being said, you have a nice opportunity to do a nice little triple stack right there. A nice little triple stack.
It could be the time to take him. I'm a little nervous. He hasn't been throwing the ball deep downfield much, but similar to, those get right games we talk about, Danny Jones gets the poor Cowboys defense. Kyler gets the Jets. The Washington Redskins their Washington football team, my apologies, could fix anything there. So that could be a get right game for Jared Goff.
Yeah, then that's going to do it for the quarterbacks like this week. A lot of the guys as I mentioned, were on the single game slates, but I figured since this is a DFS podcast, it'd only be fair to mention these guys for people who are going to be playing a single game slate since we don't do a podcast on Sunday. So I'm getting those quarterbacks in my captain spots because I think they're in shootout potential games. And obviously, I was excited to play Justin Jefferson this week with Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. Just those three triple stack it up.
Hold on. Last week you gave me a little slack, if I remember, about Justin Jefferson there. I says it could be a Justin Jefferson bounce back, and I remember you gave me a little hard time there, Justin. What did he do? He performed again.
I would say that's kind of makes it even with the Odell thing, but no, it doesn't. So, but you are right. I did give you some backlash. I wasn't.
Touche.
I'm a believer in Justin Jefferson. I was in the draft process, but I just have a rookie thing with COVID. I think that's my bias from the offseason, where in reality these rookies are just good at football and they're going to produce no matter what. Going into the wide receiver position, CeeDee Lamb's always a play for me because this guy looks like the real deal. And I could tell you, when prospecting this guy, he looked like the real deal. His prospect profile also looked like the real deal. But Dan liked Jerry Judy more. And of course, now I'm going to mention this every single podcast just because I got to do it. And also in the Dynasty League, Dan and I have together, I was able to take CeeDee Lamb one in front of him, but he did get Justin Herbert, so it's not a bad consolation prize. But CeeDee Lamb, baby. But $6,000 on the slate. And I mean, every week, there's no question that I'm going to have at least one lineup that has Dak Prescott and 2 of his 3 receivers. And for me this week, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. I don't care if Cooper is 7,400 because guess what? The Cowboys' defense is trash. No offense. Sorry, Dan. This is a fantasy podcast, not a personal attack on you.
It's fair.
Who else do you like a wide receiver? I have a couple, but I don't want to steal all your guys and just list mine one for one. So I guess we're going to go back and forth this episode. We're trying out some different flows.
So the big guys I'm with you with CeeDee Lamb. He's my Cowboy receiver for this week. I'm a little bit off of Cooper.
Where's the jersey, Dan? Where's the jersey?
I don't know. That winning baby's right there, Justin. I take a lot of pride in that one. I think the mass multi-entered your contest to increase the odds there. But as much as I love Cooper, I'm a little mad. He got a little soft that last play of the game on the slant. I'm kind of curious what happened there. But he's been awesome this year. But this week with James Bradbury cover him, who's been kind of having one of his best years at corner, I'm going to go in the direction of Lamb and Zeke Elliott. All right, Zeke's going to get a lot of catches. I know we're talking wide receivers, but I'm giving you the reason why I'm off Cooper a little bit more this week. And I'm high on Hollywood Brown. I've been talking every week. John Bauer keeps giving me, about, Hollywood not being an elite receiver. I've been watching every Ravens
Hollywood
game.
week. It is
Hollywood
close, Dan.
He is close to connecting with Lamar. And he's got, the Bengals secondary. Come on. So give me Hollywood at 6,300.
Week. It is Hollywood.
Love Darius Slayton. Speed kills, man. Slayton's going to torch Dallas's defense. So, Hollywood, Slayton.
You're stealing my guys. I tried to do the rotating thing so I wouldn't steal our guys, but you just stole back-to-back guys. But Slayton is the guy. Go ahead. Keep going.
I love him. I think Hollywood, Slayton, Lamb, and Nuke are probably my favorites for the week right now at this point in the week anyway. Nuke at 7,900. When I have Watson, I'll take Fuller at 6,600. As long as Will Fuller is healthy, I'm going to have him in DFS lineups somewhere. It might not be in all my lineups, but I'm not going to lose sight of Will Fuller. Carolina, man, pick your poison. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. We're talking about, loving Teddy Bridgewater this week. And I think Curtis Samuel is a sneaky play at 4,800 because they've been playing him out of the backfield a little bit. Atlanta is hemorrhaging points to the backs, to the tight ends. I think if you move Curtis Samuel around a little bit, he might be a nice sneaky play. You mentioned Justin Jefferson. When you do get to Sunday night, and depending on how you're playing the slates, Metcalf, Lockett, Jefferson, Thielen, both for pretty bad secondaries. They're the guys I'm highest on. I'll mention Atlanta, Julio, and Ridley, and again in that Carolina game, you can never ignore them. And then my punt plays, man, I want to touch on punt plays. Tyreek Hill, Ty Freak's one guy I also don't want to lose sight of in that Kansas City game versus the Raiders. He's at 6,900, which is a pretty good price. But if you need a punt play this week, depending on how you want to manipulate your lineup in that Atlanta game, if any one of those receivers is out, Gage, Julio, even if they're not out, he's still getting some reps, and I'm not confident Julio could get through a game at this point. I said it last week, Justin. It came through as a punt play last week. Is that Olamide Zaccheaus of the Falcons? I watched the game a little bit, and man, he looks explosive. I don't know, how he'll do in a full-time role, how his route running is, but when he touches the ball, he looks like an athletic cat out there. So I love him at 3,000. And if New England, now I think they're getting moved to the Monday night slate. Darius Byrd was a sneaky punt play. I know Al Smizzle liked Byrd too, but the punt play that no one's talking about in New England is that Gunnar Ozlowski or whatever his last name is. He played for the first time come back from injury in the preseason. Cam loved Gunnar, and he was really showing out. And then he was out in the injured reserve for 3 weeks. He came back last game, and he looked kind of good, man. Julian Edelman's hanging on by a string right now, having trouble getting through games or something that really looks like there's something bothering Edelman. I'm not sure. So there are a couple pump plays for you as well.
Yeah, I do like the Gunnar pick. Gunnar was a guy. I have a friend who's a Pats fan, and he was talking about Gunnar this whole offseason. So I do like that as a pump play. Back to the wide receivers, though, for the Sunday main slate. DJ Chark is a guy who came back from injury and commanded targets, easily led that entire wide receiver corps in target share, air yards, all the good stuff you want to see. So he's back to being Minshew's alpha and getting that alpha kind of usage. So I do like DJ Chark this week. And I think he's going to continue doing what he's going to do because the Jaguars are not a good team at all, Dan. I mean, you can attest to this, that they're just not. And they also have a top 15 team implied total in a game against Texans, which is a 54.5 point over under, and they're 6-point underdogs, which most likely means they're playing from behind. So get these guys in these negative game scripts because they're going to see more volume. I mentioned Jared Goff's a play of mine. Well, the Rams have the 8th highest team implied total against Washington, and they're probably going to get out to an early lead. So if I'm not getting a team that's behind, I want a team that's favored by a lot. That way they're going to be scoring points, and odds are they're going to do it to the receiving area of the field against Washington because Washington's front seven, even without Chase Young, is relatively impressive. So I do like Robert Woods at 6,400. Hollywood Brown, I'm reiterating that. I love that. And also the triple stack with Teddy Bridgewater, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson. You can't go wrong with that. I think it's DJ Moore week. So I'm making sure I have DJ Moore in my lineups, at least one of them, because I do think he's going to blow up this week for over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a bold one. But 150 yards and 2 touchdowns for my man DJ Moore. I need it to happen. I'm speaking into existence because he's letting me down this year a lot. Punt plays for the week. You mentioned I don't have Kyler Murray in my lineups. I'll probably have a cash on up with Kyler Murray, but he's kind of expensive, and I don't like paying up at quarterback that much. But Andy Isabella keeps running more routes each week, and he's always a threat to score the ball anytime he has the ball in his hands. I went to UMass for a semester and a half, and Andy Isabella from UMass. So just by that reason alone, it's a valid reason of why you got to play Andy Isabella. I mean, you can't argue with me there. And then
I like that. I didn't know that about you, Josh. So I got some new insight today. That's good.
Yeah, and then a little deeper punt play for 3,500 is Isaiah Ford, who you mentioned. What's this Preston Williams guy doing? Well, guess what? It's nothing because Isaiah Ford back-to-back, I think 8+ target games. Isaiah Ford 3,500 against San Fran. I do like that play because they're going to be throwing the ball too because my Dolphins are not good. But we are about 1 week away from Tua Tagovailoa stepping in behind center. And boy, oh boy, am I excited for that. So that's the wide receivers I like this week. Running back, Stan. It's time for the running back show. And there's this guy named Zeke Elliott, 7,800. I'm playing him. I do like Zeke a lot this week. I also am liking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 6,800. It's crazy that we're seeing James Robinson ahead of Miles Sanders. Well, that makes sense. Miles Sanders, that's Pittsburgh. And it wouldn't be in the Money DFS podcast show if I didn't mention Miles Sanders. It's Miles Sanders week because it's always Miles Sanders week. But it's hard for me to play him at 6,500 when you have Kareem Hunt without Nick Chubb also at 6,500. Mike Davis, always a play because he's looked very, very good, like surprisingly good in this Carolina offense. And I'm honestly not even concerned about having Teddy Bridgewater, Mike Davis, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson in the same lineup because I think this game's going to be a shootout. It could cap your upside overall, but if it hits to be a game that's super, super high scoring and catch a 70+ point game, which very well could happen because Atlanta loves to blow lead, so they could be up by like 30-7 at halftime and then make it somehow a game. So this could be a very, very high scoring game. If you have all those guys, they're all going to hit. But a little cheaper, it does not look like Mr. Raheem Mostert is playing this week. So Jerick McKinnon is a fringe RB1, and he's priced down at $5,800. I'd rather have him even price dependent. Shout out John Bauer on Kenyon Drake and Ty Gurley. I'd rather have Jerick McKinnon. He looked great last week, and I think he's a play this week. And my sleeper pick well, I know you're going to mention this guy, so I'm not going to mention him. I'm going to hope you mention him, and I'll have you take credit for it. So I'm not going to mention him. But if you don't mention him, I'm going to mention him after you talk. But Duke Johnson is a sleeper play because it's a high implied total. They're favorites, but new regime. No more Bill O'Brien. Maybe an offensive coordinator who steps in is like, oh, wait, Duke Johnson's good at football. Let's get him more involved. And he did run some routes in his first game back last week. So I do like Duke Johnson this week.
Good coverage there, man. I think we're on the same wavelength at running back. I had a more of a narrow field than I did in previous weeks where I was kind of looking at different running back possibilities. I had 5 guys that I highlighted, and you named 4 of them in Zeke, CEH, Mike Davis, the guy you didn't name who I know I'm going to name as the sleeper, which is my boy from the New England Patriots, correct?
Nope.
No. Although they moved him to the Monday night slate there. But my boy Damian Harris, man, did you see him? That's part of the reason I won a lot of money this weekend because he finally got to play and he showed out. He was another preseason guy in New England that looked great. And he was a guy I was on all offseason, really high on him. So Matt, who is your? Well, all right, maybe, give me a chance. So they were 4 of my 5 main ones. My 5th one
Who's
was
the guy?
Jonathan Taylor.
Well, he's always a play for me too. I didn't mention him because I feel like I always say it, but like the only guy I'm okay with always saying is Miles Sanders. But I do like Jonathan Taylor. His usage kind of concerned me last week, not getting over 50% of the running back touches. But I believe in a game with Cleveland, it's tough to play him, but it could be the game where you want to play him because maybe they turn to him more. He's a rookie, no preseason game, so 4% this season, I'm not overly concerned with Jonathan Taylor's production. Is my favorite buy low target at running back, who I'm not even buying low on because if someone has him, you're to buy. But 6,200, it looks like DraftKings has him appropriately priced.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are my top 5, and we're on the same page there. Again, Jonathan Taylor, hopefully in a more competitive game. At some point you want to be on him when he breaks out at 6,200. I think it's pretty safe. Definitely a good cash game play, but it has potential in GPP to break out. After that, man, I'm in like sleeper mode here. Like I have just little notes of guys I'm thinking about, but I'm not really on yet. Devontae Freeman, because I just think anybody versus Dallas could possibly score. Josh Jacobs, I'm not losing sight of it at 6,300. You mentioned Duke Johnson. I was thinking David Johnson, kind of going back to the well there, with Romeo Crennel is the new interim head coach. He's that old school, I'm going to play defense. He's a defensive-minded coach. Maybe they try to establish the run a little bit more. Devin Singletary's been kind of good and sneaky for me. He's at 5,900. And then maybe this is the sleeper play that I didn't mention that you want to give me credit for, than Antonio Gibson at 5,000.
Oh, there it is.
I knew you well.
That is the guy, and that's the guy I'm playing at 5,000. He looks good, and I expect his usage in the overall game scheme for Washington to keep increasing because he does look like the best backhands down. Like, this dude's a beast, and I know Dan likes him because he's been trying to get him from me in the DLF Championship Series East. Well, guess what? It's never going to happen, Dan. I mean, maybe it will happen, but probably not, Dan.
Quit being greedy, Justin. Come on, man. Share a little bit. Sharing is caring, all right?
Sharing
good things happen when you share. I know you're trying to will Miles Sanders into existence this fantasy season, so maybe some random acts of kindness will help that come true for you. That's the only thing I can think of. But I'm with you on Gibson. I mean, you could run against the Rams. They're at home, so you have a home running back against a team that you could run on, and he's getting passing work too. So is McKissick, but it's not like it's one over the other. They're just both getting receiving work. And Gibson does keep, coming along each week. The Washington shifts to Kyle Allen at quarterback, who I think is not a good quarterback. But the one thing we know he could do is dump down to backs like he did Christian McCaffrey last year. So at 5,000, Antonio Gibson's a nice, inexpensive play, especially now that Damian Harris is going to go to that Monday Night Football slate. I think that's your lowest play at running back that could provide some good value is Antonio Gibson.
And I love how you mentioned Christian McCaffrey in the same sentence as Antonio Gibson because they're metric-wise, they are pretty comparable. Not the same caliber, obviously, but like metric-wise, they're comparable. Both using the passing game. Love that Kyle Allen start for him. Now, tight ends and defenses, and then stack it week. We're running a little slower this week, Dan, but it's okay. We'll get this done in time because tight end's always it's a crapshoot. You're not gonna know what you're gonna get. My 2 favorite plays this week. I'm stealing your thunder. Ian Thomas, 3,400. He ran.
Don't steal my thunder. That's my pick of the week, man. Come on. All right, go ahead.
that's all right. That's the In the Money DFS podcast pick of the week.
Tell them to bring me my money.
That's the pick of the week. And then also a little slightly above $4,000 on DraftKings is Eric Ebron. They want to use him in the red zone. He looks good. I don't know if Deontay Johnson is playing, so keep a monitor on that because if he's not, then I love Eric Ebron at 4K. Austin Hooper also play 4,100. He's seen his target share.
You're reading my notes, man. Ebron was 2 of my 3 guys that are highlighted here, man. And they're not like the big names that have good matchups this week too. So that's impressive.
He's just a target share increase ever since week 1. He's had, I think, an average of 18.2% target share. So I do like Austin Hooper. And before I steal any more of the guys on your sheet, Dan, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'm a little salty now, man.
I'm mad we can't play Jonnu. I want to say also, I'm so mad we can't play Jonnu because stupid.
Yeah, I hear you there. But, we'll see what happens there in Tennessee. I think they're talking about Tennessee and Buffalo playing Tuesday night. So for our listeners, that's something to keep in mind. If there's no more positive tests, they will play.
It's going to get canceled, man. I'm telling the viewers right now. I'm predicting the future. It's going to keep showing a positive test for Tennessee. So Tennessee's going to have back-to-back no games.
I was lucky last week in Dynasty. I had 88% of my ball clubs won, despite not having Derrick Henry and Jonnu in many of them. So it's getting a little hard to go without him. But out of quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, I was most excited to talk about Ian Thomas and Eric Ebron tonight because I think they're just – you saw what Aaron Rodgers did with Tanyan versus the Atlanta team, and tight ends are having a field day. So here comes Ian Thomas. I think it's his turn. I'm expecting a big game. He's doing a little more. I think he's a nice fade. You look at a Carolina stack, and we'll talk about stacks, instead of stacking all those guys in like you were talking, quadruple stacks or whatever. I think Ian Thomas is the guy you want to get in the mix there. Ebron's getting good chemistry over there in Pittsburgh at 4,000 with Big Ben. The third guy I highlighted, Justin, that I love this week that I think is trending up is Evan Ingram. Again, everybody versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Clapper, he has some insight into Dallas a little bit too. It's going to be interesting to watch this game. But I like the way Evan Ingram's playing. I hope they, stretch him out and utilize him even a little bit more. But Ian Thomas, Ingram, and Ebron, I like them as nice plays to save you money in your lineups. Great GPP plays because I think Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and Waller, they're just obvious. I think they are also all good plays this week. I think it depends what lineups I have. I'll definitely have some shares of those big four as well. But I think the majority of my higher stakes and bigger GPPs, I'm going to go with Thomas, Ingram, and Ebron.
Yeah, sounds good to me. And now defenses, I do for some reason like your Cowboys defense at 3,100 just because of this Daniel Jones and he's turnover prone. But I'm not gonna feel good playing that defense because boy oh boy do they suck. It's disgusting.
Yeah, the only thing
they are 9.5 point favorites. Go ahead then. Sorry.
The only thing I'd say to that, Justin, on Dallas is watch the injury report on defense as the season goes along. If you get that, a weekend like this where they're playing a Danny Dimes and they're at home and, you want that good cheap pump play defense, they're still waiting for Cheeto Uzie to come back at corner, and they're waiting for Anthony Brown to come back at corner. If they get one or two of those corners back, they might be able to cover a little bit better and making them a little bit more attractive. I don't know their status yet this week, so I would watch those two. And DeMarcus Lawrence hasn't been healthy yet. If he gets healthy, that helps their pass rush. So there is a little hope that this defense gets better as the season goes on. Sean Lee hopefully comes back at some point. But if we don't get any of those guys back, Justin, man, you're definitely throwing a Hail Mary there on my boys'
Yeah,
defense.
well, in that case, I'm not going to touch them. But I will be playing the Jaguars defense against Houston. They're a little underdogs. Houston against the Jaguars is what I meant to say. So it's a little cheaper, 2,600, which is weird how they're cheaper because they are favorites in this game. And Gardner Minshew is accurate, but I believe that the Texans at home doesn't really matter much. But 2,600 is a big thing in this. So 2,600 allows you to pay up for other positions. And I think if you're trying to save some money somewhere, the Texans won't kill you.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm going one or two ways on defense. It's either Houston Texans at 2,600 if I'm going inexpensive and saving money there. Again, Romeo Crennel's taken over as coach. He is a defensive guy. He could confuse Gardner Minshew. We saw that happen in the one game Gardner had some trouble versus the Chiefs versus zone defenses. It got the best of them. So that could happen again. And if I'm going to pay up, I'm going to go with the Steelers at 3,800. Loving that defense versus an Eagles offense that is greatly struggling, has no receivers, and they're banged up. I think they have their offensive line is in a lot of trouble, man. I know you're still willing Miles Sanders into existence, and he'll get some touches,
the usage is there for Miles Sanders, but that offense it's so bad. It's like an operating room at this point because everyone on that offense is just hurt or on IR. It sucks for you, a Cowboys fan. It's probably like it obviously hurts to see injuries, no pun intended. But that's what are you gonna do?
Nothing matters in Dallas, Justin. Nothing matters in the NFC East. That whole division is in shambles. Whoever wins the division at 7-9, if they're lucky this year, is still going out in the first round of the playoffs. There are 4 bad teams in the NFC East.
Yeah. My pay up play for defense that I like to do this week is the Cardinals at 4,100. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, I'm aware they're expensive. That's why I just said they're expensive. But 4,100. It's Joe Flacco. That's all I gotta say. And it's the Jets. Joe Flacco and the Jets. But before we get out of here, Dan, we gotta get the people some stacks. So who is your stack of the week? Who do you love to stack it up with? I'm mad because I can't play Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Kirk Cousins, but you bet your butt I'm gonna be playing that in the Sunday Night Football single slate.
Yeah, 3 stacks I'm looking at. And I guess I'll start with, if I was going to say my stack of the week, it's going to be Atlanta and Carolina right now. I just got to figure out what the right combination and probably play a few multiple combinations in that game. I just think there's no defense on either side of the ball. Matty Ice at home, a lot of potential in that Atlanta offense. Brady coordinating that Carolina offense is like a thing of beauty, man. Like when CMC comes back, it's going to get even more exciting. But Mike Davis is really keep picking up the slack there. So I love that game with an over-under of 55. I'm going to keep going back to the well all season with Dallas, and especially versus the Giants. No defense again on either side, but Giants have some skill guys that could play back and score some points. And then you mentioned that Minnesota-Seattle game. I love that one as well, which not only, we talk single game slate, but you could play that Thursday through Monday, ignore most of the games on the slate, like go heavy on that Monday night, and you can get some sneaky money there. So I'm going to make sure I play that slate as well this weekend.
Yeah, and there's two stacks I want to talk about outside of the Dallas stack, which I think every week's definitely in play. And this is kind of, I don't really always like paying up for top quarterbacks, and I know Lamar Jackson hasn't looked great this year, but it is without a doubt Hollywood Brown week. So Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown stack, I love it. And you can also, on the back end of it, put Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd's been consistent for Joe Burrow, and I think he looks good. So I do like that game stack right there. And also, it would be criminal for me not to mention Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's been solid all year long, but we really haven't seen that Tyreek Hill boom game yet, which is weird. And I think that it could happen here against the division rivals, the Raiders, who have a leaky secondary sometimes. And you know how Patrick Mahomes, all it takes is a flick of the wrist to just throw up all 70 freaking yards somehow and accurate on the dot. So Tyreek Hill stack with Patty Mahomes, and you can reverse game stack it with Darren Waller at tight end. So I'm always for the game stacks. That's my big thing. That's been winning me money these past couple weeks, is targeting these very high total games and just running with game stacks. So I think it's been successful, and there's no reason to stop fading that. So 55-point over under is the highest on the slate, or the main slate, I should say. So I'm targeting that. And the highest game on the slate is the Minnesota Vikings Seattle Seahawks game, which you want all passing pieces in that game. So
yeah,
that's one last for the stacks. Oh, you get another one. Oh, bonus stack.
No, just I guess I want to get a little more specific into those stacks, maybe more than I was. I got kind of all caught up in the games. That Carolina-Atlanta, just going back to our plays, incorporating Ian Thomas and that Olamide Zaccheaus, you get those guys really low. That's going to allow you to put some really high pieces in there and get the best players in that game and elsewhere. And then again, that Dallas stack, I'm thinking a little bit more Dak, Zeke, Lamb, and then running it back, Slayton Ingram combinations. And then the Minnesota game, I love Dalvin Cook. Jamal Adams is out again. So without that big run stopper, that big hitter, I want definitely some Dalvin in those stacks. And be careful, Jess. There's a couple. I love a lot of your picks today, but you gotta be aware of those matchups. You mentioned Tyler Boyd. Baltimore still really has some.
That's just for the reverse
good
game
secondary.
The Baltimore does have a very, very good secondary, and that team total, Baltimore's team total is it's implied it's very high. So it's not actually. Why can't I find it on the sheet? They don't have all the games because it's not updated yet. But I am playing that because Baltimore. They look good, but they haven't looked as good as they did last year. If that makes sense. And I think that Joe Burrow keeps improving every single game, and he does have Boyd as his number one. But Boyd's a little expensive on DraftKings. So you want to do a secret stack with people who still are listening somehow who haven't turned off our podcast yet. It's T. Higgins. You want to play T. Higgins in that reverse game stack because he's the number 2 in that offense now. That's a sneaky stack. People who don't listen this far, well, guess what? You missed out on it. But that's going to do it for the stacks. Obviously, I said my quadruple stack, but you said Ian Thomas. Is that quintuple? I don't know, but the 5x stack, you can't do that. That's just not wise.
I love Bridgewater. I love Davis. I love Ian Thomas, and maybe one of those Carolina receivers. It's a matter of picking.
Yeah, I don't want to say it. It's DJ Moore week, but Robbie Anderson has some. It's so stupid. It's just so stupid. So you can't get me tilted at the end of this podcast, Dan. You can't do this. You're gonna have me start punching walls or something like that. We can't have that on the podcast for PG. That's gonna do it for the In the Money DFS podcast week 5. If you guys made it this far, if you're not subscribed, you got to fix that because what are you doing? Dan, if they're not subscribed, what should I do?
They're missing out, man. Right now, if you're not following the In the Money podcast, we're sharing good content during the week from some of our friends throughout the industry, no matter what format you're playing, but definitely some DFS nuggets. Inbox us, messages. We'll be happy to talk DFS with you. And listen, man, again, 3 out of 4 weeks. Bling, bling, bling. You see all that green on the screen, man.
Weeks.
3 in a row. 3 in a row.
Yeah,
so
that's the more important.
Let us lead the listeners in the right direction there. And we will end on that Kansas City, that Tyreek Hill breakout. Ruggs is back this week too. He could be a sneaky DFS play.
I like that. Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.